In the heart of the unforgiving Wild West, where the sun beats down like a merciless judge and the wind whispers secrets of forgotten dreams, a lone cowboy rides into a storm of passion that could shatter his soul forever. But what if the love he's craved for years is just a mirage hiding deadly betrayal? If you're in the USA or UK craving a tale that'll grip your heart and twist your gut, hit that subscribe button right now for more epic stories that blend raw emotion with edge-of-your-seat drama. Don't miss out, subscribe today and let's ride this wild journey together. The dusty trails of the American frontier in 1875 stretched out like endless veins of parched earth under a sky that seemed perpetually angry, and in the midst of it all rode Elias Hawthorne, a man whose face was etched with the lines of too many sunsets spent alone, his heart a barren wasteland where love had withered away like tumbleweeds in the wind, for it had been years, nay, a decade, since anyone had looked upon him with anything resembling tenderness, his last whisper of affection coming from a saloon girl in Abilene who vanished with the dawn, leaving him with nothing but a faded locket and a hollow ache that gnawed at his insides like a coyote on a bone. And now, at 38, with his Colt revolver slung low on his hip and his faithful mare, Bessie, carrying him through the Badlands of New Mexico territory, Elias found himself pondering the cruel irony of a life spent chasing outlaws and gold only to realize that the greatest thief was time itself, stealing away his youth and his capacity for joy. But little did he know that fate, that capricious mistress, was about to hurl him into a whirlwind of emotion that would test every fiber of his being, starting with the distant plume of smoke rising from what appeared to be a beleaguered wagon train under attack by Apache raiders, their war cries piercing the arid air like arrows. And without a second thought, Elias spurred Bessie forward, his rifle cracking with precision as he picked off two of the assailants from afar, the survivors scattering like shadows at noon, and as the dust settled, he approached the wreckage to find a group of settlers huddled in fear, their eyes wide with gratitude, but among them stood a woman whose presence hit him like a thunderclap. Her name was Clara Beaumont, a vision in a tattered blue dress that clung to her curves like morning dew on sagebrush, her auburn hair cascading in wild waves down her back, eyes the color of storm clouds holding a depth that spoke of sorrows untold. And as she thanked him with a voice soft as velvet yet strong as whiskey, Elias felt a stir in his chest he thought long dead, a flicker of warmth that made him stammer like a greenhorn. "Ma'am, it was nothin', just doin' what any man ought." But Clara's smile, oh that smile, it was a sunrise after endless night, and she insisted on tending to a shallow graze on his arm from a stray bullet, her fingers gentle against his weathered skin, igniting sparks he hadn't felt since his youth. And in that moment, as the settlers regrouped and offered him a share of their meager supplies, Elias decided to escort them to the nearest town, Fort Sumner, a decision that would unravel the threads of his solitary existence, for during the 3-day journey under starry skies and blistering days, Clara shared fragments of her story. She was a widow from Boston, fleeing the ghosts of a loveless marriage to a banker who perished in a fire she suspected was no accident, seeking a new life in the West where she could teach school and mend her broken spirit. And Elias, in turn, opened up in ways he never had, recounting his days as a Union soldier in the Civil War, the horrors of Gettysburg that left him scarred not just in body but in soul, how he drifted into bounty hunting to escape the nightmares, capturing men like Black Jack Ketchum for the reward money that bought him nothing but loneliness. And as they talked by the campfire, their hands brushing accidentally while passing a canteen, a bond formed, tentative at first, like a fragile bridge over a chasm, but growing stronger with each shared laugh and lingering glance, until one night, under a full moon that bathed the desert in silver, Clara leaned in and kissed him, her lips tasting of hope and desperation. And Elias, oh Elias, he surrendered to it, wrapping his arms around her as if she were the oasis in his desert, whispering, "Please take it easy. I have not been loved in years," a confession that bared his vulnerability like an open wound. And she replied, "Then let me love you now, Elias, for my heart has been just as starved." And in the privacy of their shared blanket away from the others, they made love with the passion of souls long denied, her body soft and yielding against his hardened frame, exploring each other with hands that trembled from years of restraint. The night filled with moans that echoed softly into the void, marking the beginning of what Elias dared to believe was redemption. But as they arrived in Fort Sumner, a bustling outpost of saloons, general stores, and the ever-present shadow of Billy the Kid's gang lurking in the periphery, twists began to weave into their tapestry, for Clara's arrival drew the attention of Sheriff Pat Garrett, a tall, mustachioed lawman with a reputation for unyielding justice, who recognized her not as a simple widow but as the sister of a notorious outlaw, Harlan Beaumont, wanted for stagecoach robberies across Texas, and Garrett pulled Elias aside in the livery stable, his voice low and grave. "That woman you're sweet on, Hawthorne. She's trouble. Her brother's got a $500 bounty, and word is she's been funneling information to him. Best steer clear." But Elias, blinded by the first blooms of love, dismissed it as jealousy or misinformation, confronting Clara that evening in their rented room above the saloon, where she tearfully admitted the connection but swore she had cut ties years ago, begging him to trust her. "Elias, my past is a chain I broke free from. Don't let it bind us now." And he chose to believe her, their nights becoming a sanctuary of intimacy, her whispers of affection healing old scars. But the plot thickened when a telegram arrived for Clara from an anonymous sender, which Elias accidentally glimpsed, reading, "Meet at Red Rock Canyon. Bring the map." Igniting seeds of doubt, yet when he questioned her, she claimed it was from a cousin about inheritance, and in his desperation to hold onto this love, he accepted the lie, even as whispers in town spoke of increased raids nearby, attributing them to Harlan's gang, and Elias, ever the hunter, felt the pull of duty, deciding to track the outlaws himself to protect Clara and prove her innocence, riding out alone into the canyons where red rocks towered like ancient sentinels, ambushing a small band of riders and capturing one, a grizzled man named Zeke who, under duress, confessed that Clara was indeed involved, not as a reluctant sister but as the mastermind, using her charm to gather intelligence from travelers like the wagon train, passing it to Harlan for ambushes. And the revelation hit Elias like a gut shot, betrayal twisting in his belly as he realized the graze on his arm from the initial attack might have been staged, a ploy to draw him in. But why him? Zeke spat the truth. "She's after the lost Confederate gold you found years back, the one you buried in the Badlands. Harlan knows you got the map in that locket." And Elias's world shattered. The locket, his only memento from that long-ago saloon girl, who was no girl but a spy he'd forgotten in his haze of youth, now a key to a fortune he'd hidden after the war. And racing back to town, he found Clara gone, the room ransacked, his saddlebags emptied, but not the locket, which he'd kept on his person, and in a rage fueled by heartbreak, he set out after her, tracking her trail to Red Rock Canyon, where he arrived at dusk to find her rendezvous with Harlan and his gang, a dozen hard men around a campfire, and Clara, laughing in her brother's arms, counting stolen goods. But as Elias watched from the shadows, rifle aimed, a deeper twist emerged. Harlan wasn't her brother, but her lover, their embrace too intimate, their kisses confirming the deception, and Elias's finger trembled on the trigger, torn between vengeance and the lingering echo of her touch. But before he could fire, another figure emerged from the rocks, Sheriff Garrett, revealing himself not as a lawman but as a federal agent undercover, who'd been using Elias as bait to draw out the gang. And in the ensuing chaos, gunfire erupted, bullets whizzing like angry hornets, Elias diving into the fray, taking down two outlaws before a shot grazed his shoulder, and Clara, spotting him, screamed his name with what seemed like genuine terror, rushing to his side amid the melee. "Elias, I didn't want this. I fell for you for real." But her words rang hollow as Harlan aimed at him, only for Clara to step in the way, taking the bullet meant for Elias, collapsing in his arms with blood blooming on her dress, gasping, "The map, it's not worth it. I love you." And as Harlan fled into the night, pursued by Garrett's deputies, Elias held her, tears mixing with dust on his cheeks, whispering, "Why, Clara? Why play me like this?" And in her dying breath, she confessed the full truth. She had started as a con, sent by Harlan to seduce him for the gold map. But somewhere in their shared nights, the act became reality, her heart turning against the plan, the telegram a plea for Harlan to back off. But he refused, forcing the meeting. And now, with her gone, Elias was left in the canyon's silence, the weight of love and loss crushing him anew. But wait, the twists weren't done, for as he buried her under a cairn of stones, he discovered a note in her pocket, a real inheritance document from Boston, proving her widow's story true, and a letter to him, unfinished, expressing her intent to confess everything and run away together, making him question if her sacrifice was redemption or final deception. And in the months that followed, Elias hunted Harlan down, not for revenge but for closure, capturing him in a shootout in Tombstone, turning him over to Garrett for the bounty, but refusing the gold's allure, leaving it buried as a monument to his pain, wandering the West as before, but changed, his heart no longer barren but scarred with the knowledge that love, even fleeting, was worth the risk, yet cautioning himself to take it easy next time, for he had not been loved in years, and perhaps never would be again. But in quiet moments by campfires, he touched the locket, remembering Clara's touch, the emotional storm that nearly destroyed him, and wondered if somewhere in the vast frontier, another soul waited to heal his wounds, the end of one chapter opening the possibility of another in the endless saga of the Wild West.